This guy trapped his own daughter in a dungeon, then clapped her. We open on a house that looks like the cover art for a depression pamphlet. It is raining harder than necessary. Tess pulls up in an SUV, frantically memorizing a 4-digit code like she's trying to disarm a nuke. She tacks the lockbox on the porch, getting soaked for her trouble. The atmosphere is wet and vaguely threatening, mostly because she's alone in the dark fumbling with the metal box. The lockbox is empty because the universe has a cruel sense of humor. Then after leaving a voicemail that will be deleted by a property manager in 3 weeks, Tess rings the doorbell. A man named Keith answers. They stare at each other with the glazed eyes of two people realizing their evening has just become a logistical nightmare. They compare emails, and it's a double booking. Keith invites her inside, mostly because leaving a woman on a porch in this neighborhood is a jagged pill to swallow. The title Barbarian slams onto the screen, implying this isn't a rom-com. Keith jokes that she might be the weirdo, a statement that ages like milk. Tess retreats to the bathroom to stare at herself in the mirror and question her life choices. Tess spots a toothbrush, confirming Keith has effectively colonized the bathroom already. In the living room, they play a game of polite standoff. Tess wants a hotel, but Keith points out that the neighborhood currently looks like a demilitarized zone. All the houses are like foreclosed and abandoned, lots of crime. Anyway, it doesn't matter, it's Detroit. She stands by the door, trying to decide if the rain or the stranger is the safer bet. It is awkward, moist, and tense. All the hotels are booked, presumably by people who actually plan ahead. Keith, a man with the charisma of a polite accountant, suggests they share the rental. He offers her the bedroom and starts doing laundry to prove he holds hygienic standards, if not moral ones. Tess agrees, but checks his wallet to ensure he is a licensed human being. It is a classic horror mistake, prioritizing social politeness over the blaring siren of danger. Later, Tess emerges wearing an oversized t-shirt that screams, "I am not available. Do not clap at me." Meanwhile, Keith has wine. He delivers a neurotic monologue about how he deliberately didn't open the bottle earlier so she would know it wasn't drugged. This is exactly what a serial killer would say to gain trust, but it works. Tess sits down, deciding that a glass of Cabernet is worth the risk of immediate death. The alcohol lubricates the conversation and they bond over obscure jazz documentaries, proving they are both insufferable hipsters. Keith talks about Detroit's artistic renaissance, conveniently ignoring the post-apocalyptic wasteland that is the neighborhood outside that front door. Then they move to the couch. The atmosphere shifts from hostage negotiation to awkward Tinder date. They laugh and share trauma, completely oblivious to the fact that they are basically appetizers waiting to be served. Tess lectures Keith on why women don't trust men. Keith listens, nodding along like a golden retriever trying to understand calculus. They discuss her toxic ex, because nothing sets the mood like past relationship trauma. Keith puts a sheet over his head to play ghost, a seduction technique that shouldn't work but somehow does. They share a moment of potential, moist biological merger, but ultimately retreat to separate rooms. No clapping tonight. Tess wakes to find her bedroom door standing open, the universal architectural sign for imminent homicide. She creeps into the living room to find Keith thrashing on the couch screaming "help me" in his sleep. She wakes him and he vehemently denies opening a door. Apparently bro is just having a night terror. The vibe shifts instantly from awkward sleepover to home invasion, suggesting the house is a third unlisted tenant with severe boundary issues. By morning, Keith has vanished, leaving a polite note. Tess finally sees the neighborhood in daylight. The aesthetic is strictly post-apocalyptic chic, with every other house a charred skeleton. Disturbed, she drives to a civilized cafe for a job interview and frantically Googles Keith, relieved to confirm he is a normal human being rather than a drifter with a hacksaw. Her interviewer is horrified to learn where Tess is staying and looks at her like she has a terminal illness. Tess brushes off the warning, claiming she is tough. This is immediately tested when she returns to the rental and a local man sprints across the lawn screaming at her. Tess decides the creepy house is safer than the screaming pedestrian and bolts for the door. The man pounds on the glass, yelling at her to leave, so naturally she locks herself inside the danger zone. She calls the police, who inform her that her safety is not in the budget. Seeking comfort, she wanders downstairs. The basement door promptly slams and locks behind her, leaving her trapped in the dark without a phone. This is natural selection at work. Tess, trapped in the basement, pulls a grimy rope protruding from the wall because curiosity kills cats and renters. A secret door opens into a black void. She sensibly mutters nope, but her brain resets to stupid mode almost immediately. She rigs a mirror to reflect light into the tunnel and enters the architectural equivalent of a giant red flag. She finds a concrete room decorated in abducted women chic, a stained mattress, a bucket, and a tripod camera. It is a studio apartment designed exclusively for felonies. She flees, but the door is locked until Keith finally rescues her. She explains she found a literal clapping dungeon. Keith listens with the skepticism of a man whose survival instincts were bred out generations ago. Tess tries to flee, but Keith insists on inspecting the dungeon himself to verify the amenities. He descends, confirms the room exists, and promptly vanishes. Tess, displaying a tragic surplus of empathy and a deficit for logic, refuses to just drive away. She grabs her phone and heads back down to save the man who is too polite to survive. She pushes past the felony room to find a second hidden door, revealing raw stone stairs carved into the earth. From the abyss, Keith screams for help. Tess looks into the gaping maw of this underground nightmare and decides to enter it. The architecture shifts from suburban rental to Satan's wine cellar, and she climbs straight down the throat of the house. Tess wanders deeper, passing rusted cages and a food bowl. The decor is strictly unlicensed kennel. She finds Keith crawling and bleeding. He insists the exit is deeper into the dark tunnels, a strategy that defies all survival instincts. As they argue over which direction leads to fewer teeth, something massive shifts in the gloom to settle the debate. A giant, scantily clad woman lunges at them. She looks like a biological weapon with hair. Keith dies. Smash cut to sunny California. Meet AJ, a Hollywood director, actor guy driving a convertible. His vibe is aggressive charisma. His agent calls with news. A co-star has accused him of assault, the clapping kind. His good mood is immediately canceled along with his new TV show. AJ reacts by screaming and calling the victim a liar. He is clearly a man who confuses innocence with volume. The drive is scenic, but his career is roadkill. Later, his financial manager explains that AJ is about to be bankrupt. To pay for the lawyers he will definitely need, AJ must sell his rental properties. One of them happens to be in Detroit. The manager advises him to sell, then promptly fires him as a client. AJ flies to Michigan, wearing a baseball cap to hide his shame. He rents a compact car and calls a friend to whine about the unfairness of consequences. He wallows in the garage, unaware he's driving towards a problem that cannot be solved by a publicist. AJ lands in Michigan to liquidate his assets before his lawyers liquidate him. He drives to the Barbarian house and finds luggage, clothes, and toiletries scattered everywhere. You see, to his knowledge, he wasn't ever renting out the house. A normal human would suspect foul play. AJ just suspects bad property management. He calls the office to complain about squatters, ignoring the fact that the living room looks like a crime scene waiting for yellow tape. His survival instinct is currently being suffocated by his massive ego. After berating the manager, he heads to a bar to explain to a friend that clapping assault is really just a branding issue. He spends the evening trying to gaslight reality and downplay his crimes, completely ignoring that his rental property is likely digesting 2 previous tenants. He is terrified of bad PR, but completely unafraid of the obviously ominous house he's currently sleeping in. Back home, he leaves a voicemail for his accuser, attempting to redefine consent as misinterpreted enthusiasm. It is a masterpiece of narcissism. The next morning, hungover and vomiting, he finally spots Tess's laptop. He realizes someone didn't just break in, they were living here. This revelation doesn't scare him, it just inconveniences him, which is the only emotion he seems biologically capable of processing. Then he hears a noise near the laundry room. Instead of fleeing, he grabs a kitchen knife to investigate, proving that confidence and intelligence are mutually exclusive. He screams down the stairs that he has a gun. He does not. He descends into the basement, ready to demand to speak to the manager of darkness, unaware he is voluntarily entering the local food chain. AJ opens the hidden door. Instead of fleeing, he immediately Googles if unpermitted dungeons count as taxable square footage. Confirming he can monetize his architectural trauma, he descends with a tape measure. He cheerfully appraises a room containing a bloodstained mattress and a tripod, seemingly unbothered that the interior design theme is serial killer. He sees dollar signs where he should be seeing forensic evidence. He continues his appraisal, likely wondering if the human-sized wall cages count as custom storage solutions. He measures a deep drop into the earth, then finds a room with a crib and a looping breastfeeding video. This specific flavor of psychosis is finally too much for his greed. His brain switches from real estate mogul to prey animal, and he brandishes a knife at the void. AJ panics at a shadow and sprints directly into a hole in the floor. He lands in a pit, broken and bleeding, where a voice in the dark whispers for him to shut up. The movie then jarringly teleports us to the 1980s. A man named Frank leaves the same house, back when the lawn was manicured and the neighborhood wasn't actively collapsing. Frank visits the store for the abduction starter pack, plastic sheeting, latex gloves, and bulk diapers. The cashier, unaware of the genre she's in, assumes he is an expectant father. Frank agrees, casually admitting the detail that the mother hasn't been informed yet. He leaves to upbeat rock music, tails a woman minding her own business, and decides she's the next participant in his unsupervised breeding program. Frank dons a jumpsuit, the universal uniform for manual labor, or premeditated crime. He tricks a woman into letting him unlock her bathroom window. Outside, a neighbor complains the area is declining. Frank, the actual cause of the decline, says he isn't leaving. He carries a body into the basement, then we cut 40 years forward to AJ, who is discovering the architectural results of Frank's hobby. AJ wakes up in a pit next to Tess. She explains the house rules: comply or die. A giant hand lowers a bottle of cloudy milk. Tess drinks it because she enjoys being alive. AJ refuses, assuming he can negotiate with biology. The mother descends, a towering nightmare of pale flesh, and forces the bottle on him, turning the kidnapping into a violent, non-consensual daycare session. The mother drags AJ to a nursery for aggressive bonding, involving a dirty finger and a breastfeeding VHS. It is a Freudian nightmare. While AJ is traumatized, Tess acts like a rational adult. She steals his flashlight, following his measuring tape back through the tunnels, and smashes her way out of the basement window. She chooses oxygen. AJ remains the baby. The mother screeches at the sunlight, defeated by the concept of daytime. A homeless man drags Tess away, explaining the house is a hunting ground. Tess wants to go back for AJ, which is noble but stupid. Downstairs, AJ wanders deeper into the dark, finding a hallway rigged with bells. He is exploring the advanced features of the torture dungeon. AJ plays hide and seek with the giant lady monster and ducks into a room smelling of urine and despair. Instead of a baby, he finds a dehydrated raisin of a man. Upstairs, Tess escapes to a gas station. The police arrive, take one look at the traumatized woman, and immediately diagnose her with being poor, which they treat as a felony. They remain impressively useless. The police follow Tess back to the house but refuse to enter because she lacks the paperwork for her own kidnapping. They leave to do something easier. Downstairs, AJ tries to give a heroic speech to the raisin man. The old man ignores the pep talk and reaches for his nightstand, which is rarely a sign that someone is about to offer you a mint. Then AJ finds a VHS collection of meticulously labeled clapping violence and realizes Raisin Man built this incest dungeon before AJ can lecture him. The man permanently unsubscribes from life with a pistol. Upstairs, Tess decides the rental deposit is a lost cause and drives her car through the wall, pinning the mother against the brickwork, like a biology specimen. Thinking the monster's dead, Tess waits in the wreckage. AJ, armed with the dead guy's gun, hears a noise and immediately shoots Tess. This is peak competence, rescuing the victim by putting a bullet in her stomach. He apologizes for the attempted murder, helps her out, and they limp towards a water tower, realizing the mother has rebooted and vanished. AJ drags the bleeding Tess to the homeless man's shelter. The man explains the mother's origin story. She is the result of generations of non-consensual family reunions, essentially a biological photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. AJ argues that he legally owns the house, which is a weird flex when there's an inbred super soldier on the loose. Suddenly, the mother smashes through the wall like a flesh-colored Kool-Aid man and violently disassembles the homeless guy. They sprint to a water tower because climbing a ladder while bleeding is excellent cardio. At the top, AJ realizes he has run out of options and charisma. He decides to nobly sacrifice Tess to the plot gods, hurling her off the edge to distract the monster. The monster dives after her, catching Tess mid-air and using her own body as a meat cushion. It is a romantic gesture, in a horrifying, terminal velocity sort of way. AJ climbs down and immediately tries to gaslight Tess, claiming she slipped, before he can finish his masterclass in toxicity. The mother wakes up and performs unauthorized eye surgery on him with her thumbs. His subscription to life is cancelled. Tess, done with this aggressive adoption attempt, shoots the mother in the head. It is a messy divorce, but effective. Tess limps away into the sunrise. She's alive, but her Yelp review of Detroit is going to be scathing.